Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Renshaw Report. MURRAY reporting from the city too tough to die, New London. Special guest is Joe Dela Cruz tonight. I'll get to him in 1 minute, but I wanted to make a couple of announcements. First, I want to offer our condolences to number one State Representative Quentin Williams, who Joe personally knew.
Yes.
Was killed last night after the governor's ball, I guess, in an automobile accident. And also to Adam Lepkowski family in Waterford, and especially the police officers in Waterford, because I know everybody's going through a tough time, and so sorry for all the relatives and friends of both of those people. And Joe will tell us a little bit about Quentin Williams, and then but first, for those of you who don't know Joe, he's worn many hats in the past. Started off making pizzas.
That's right.
At the recovery room. First and foremost, he's a great dad, great husband, and now a great grandfather.
That's right.
And that makes it all worthwhile. He's a sheet metal worker extraordinaire and is now vice president of the great Hillary Company, who, if you saw some of the work those guys put over there, you'd be amazed at what comes out of that place. They've always been a first-class #1 company. Joe's a true friend, and among other things, served in Groton politics, and is now, as of yesterday, a former state rep from the great town of Groton.
And New London.
And New London, that's right.
Yeah.
That was a screwed up thing.
No, that's good.
Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I would ask you, I should have asked you to do a rendition of Purple Rain, which I know you're famous for over in town of Groton.
I am famous. Not just Groton. I do karaoke in New London too. They have the Little Galapagos does karaoke.
Well, where do you do that?
So, once in a while, you have Bobby Johnson's the DJ down there, and I think it's on. I think they do it every Thursday night, and I've made my way down there a few times. So I'll sing Purple Rain
that
anyway.
some night because you're pretty famous on Facebook with that.
It's pretty good. I think people like it. It's better on Facebook because you're not there loud with the loudspeaker with me singing. It sounds a little muffled online, but that's what you want when I'm singing, a little bit.
So while most of us shoot our mouths off having coffee, Joe did what we all should be doing. He got involved, served on the town council in Groton, was a state rep, and although we agree not on too much politically, Joe's always been the kind of guy that we can talk to and explain our side of the story, and he's always been willing to listen and just a good friend. How does it feel, Joe, to be retired from the state legislature?
I got to tell you, what I had planned to run. Actually, I signed out my paperwork, and I was getting ready to make the jump back in. And I was going to be leaving New London. So the district got changed, and I was going to go from New London, Groton, to keep the same part of Groton, but then parts of Stonington. So when I signed up and I started doing all the rounds and driving, and I've met a lot of the folks over in Stonington, in my mind, I felt like I still could do it. And then we just got so busy with Electric Boat. And when I say busy, I mean we were a company that was doing about $2.5 million in 2016 when I first ran, and we're going to do over $7 million in business this year. And to have a company that has 12 people and to be able to do that kind of a number is incredible, and it's testament to the people that work there. But there's a lot of hours that involved to make that happen. And my wife, I told my wife I have to give up one, and she said, "Well, I'll be behind you, whatever." And she was thinking with a heart because I still have my mind on my checkbook, and I know that at 51, I'm never going to make the kind of money I'm going to make in my career where I'm at now. And you can't go back as a 60-year-old if after you're done say, "Hey, I'm ready to go back, put my tools on." That doesn't work that way. So it was a hard decision. It wasn't one I wanted to make. I felt it was something I was forced to make. Not that outside forces didn't want to do it, but if I went back, I don't think I could give my all. And it takes a lot. You need to be dedicated. You need to make sure you're hitting all those meetings and meeting people that need stuff, because otherwise you're guessing at what people need.
You were there 2 terms?
3.
3 terms?
Yeah. So I did
Once
6
again,
years.
you're making an old man out of me. That's several times tonight, Joe.
Well, I did 6 years on the RTM in Groton. Then I did 3 on the council, and then I did 6 up in. So it's about 15 years of public service altogether when you add it up.
So on the state level, where you served Groton and New London,
Yep.
what do you feel that you accomplished while you were up there?
Well, we might not agree on this, but I think my greatest accomplishment, or what I had a part in doing, was getting the minimum wage raised and then tied into the economy. It's something that before I got up there, it was something I wanted to do. I just feel like there's loopholes and everything you can do. These big corporations and Walmarts of the world, they have all these ways of saving tax money and not paying. And to me, the one thing that you have to pay is your labor. And to make sure that they were paying a standard where the folks weren't ending their shift at Walmart and then running down to downtown to London and calling Jeannie Milstein for services, calling TVCCA for heating assistance, and then getting the earned income tax credit on top of that. Well, we were literally, what I saw as a businessman, this is the business side of me thinking, how could we possibly subsidize all of these people? It's not working. And you know, what we did was change it, because that bill that we passed brought it to 15, but it doesn't stop there, because it's a very hard thing to bring up in politics, bringing up people's wages. We tied it into the economy, so it actually mirrors what happens to the Social Security. So Social Security goes up to 2%. I mean, you guys got a good one this year. I think 8% or whatever it was.
Yeah, but as soon as you get it, they take it away.
Yeah, and goods and stuff like that, what you're paying for. I get that part. But now the baseline, so the people that are entering the workforce, and some live in that workforce. We always, I think the common misconception with most people is that these minimum wage jobs are being filled by kids and teenagers. That's really not what's happening in America. Most of the people at those jobs are between 25 and 40 years old. So, you know, we had to get them to it. And that was that's one of the accomplishments. We did the Paid Family Leave and Medical Leave Act. I know it's been tough because people that open their paychecks say, one more deduction. You know, what are you guys doing? I know that's tough. But my daughter's going out on maternity leave right now. She's leaving her waitress job, and she's going to have partial payments, not a full paycheck, but it's going to help her get by. It's going to allow her to be with my second grandson. You know, if we're going to solve problems, whatever we can do to encourage people to be able to be with their family and connected, I think that's going to help solve those problems. Those are two major things that I think that were done while I was there, and I'm pretty proud of.
And how about your biggest disappointments? You must have had a few of those.
There was actually my first year going up. I felt like I couldn't do anything. The disappointment was the way that it works, and it's so slow, the process. And I was disappointed at first, and then I realized that government was designed to go slow, and for a good reason, right? You know, and I learned that through being up there. The conversations take a long time. The one thing that I say it was disappointing at first, and then I kind of revel in it a little bit now, because I understand that. Before I say I don't understand, you know, this is a good idea. We should just pass it. Then all of a sudden we're talking to people from the other side of the aisle, and our good idea doesn't sound so good after they start really putting holes in it of how it affects this and that. You know, when you make a decision for 3.5 million people, and that's what you're doing up there, there's a lot of different things that happen. There's a lot of dominoes. And for people that think they can just go up there and just do something, yeah, it's not how it works. I was up there for 6 years, and I knew where the bathrooms were in the building, but to understand that system and how it works, it's a commitment.
Well, maybe it's a little too complicated.
You know what?
On both levels of government.
It is. But it's always going to be complicated, because you go there asking for something that you think is important to your community, and here I come with an idea that's almost the exact opposite. And we both have representatives that we're voting for, and we're going to vote for the people that kind of push our idea. So it's people are difficult. I think you know that. And you know, one thing I will say though that I learned is there's a lot more working together than people ever could imagine between both sides. It does happen.
They had a big day in Groton yesterday. Big shots from Washington were there talking about that bridge. The day paper didn't have a picture of them. Who is the mayor now, by the way?
Passero.
No. I know this side of the bridge. I know this side of the bridge.
Keith Hendrick.
Keith, okay. I didn't see his picture in the paper. I found it odd.
Oh, he might have been in the background somewhere. Who knows what they decided to put in? Maybe it was a better picture of the group, but I don't think they would have left him out intentionally. He is a very large man.
How tall is he?
I think he's like 6'5".
Ooh, he's a big guy.
He is.
I saw his picture on Facebook. But not in the dead.
Yeah. And he's just as excited as New London is for this, you know, obviously. But
what's the excitement? I don't understand.
Well, we have right now we have a situation where most people don't know this, but electric boat takes loads that are over 50,000 pounds regularly. Our bridge is not rated for that currently. The one that's repaired is, but we have a weight limit on that bridge. So when you have all this steel coming from Pennsylvania and from the Midwest, and they show up in Connecticut, they have to go up to Norwich and come down, or they can go over the Mohegan Pequot, which is not very good for the rest of the infrastructure because, you're adding 20 miles of all these rigs. These bridges are vital. It's the veins that carry the blood of our country, and that bridge is as important as any bridge. When you think of what would happen if for some reason that bridge got deemed that it wasn't usable, which could happen. I mean, they get worse every day, and not by like the second or the minute, but when you don't take care of things, and we have. I mean, they built it. That bridge is 83 years old.
Really?
Yeah, and they're going to strip it down and they're going to make it new again. So
wait a minute, Joe. It's 83 years old?
Yeah, 80, maybe 80. It's right around there because the other bridge was built in the 70s.
Got it. Okay.
So the other bridge is much younger, so it was less. This is going to be. They haven't dug in completely, but they have estimates. It's going to be almost $500 million to fix the bridge. I mean, it's not a small job, and I think there'll be people 100 years from now saying, "Why are we working on this bridge again? We put $500 million into it in 2020. Well, in 2080, it's probably going to need another $1 billion or whatever it is. It's a maintenance thing."
Joe, that's a dangerous job. And let's pray and that nobody gets hurt.
Yep.
And it's a safe job. What's going on in Groton economic development wise? I know the thing that stands out in my mind is the EB new building there. I mean, it coming down School Street from this side of the river is gorgeous.
It's massive. I was inside of it. So 2 weeks ago, I was able to, I still do work. We do construction. We just did a safety ladder and installed it.
Louis Nassetta's brother was in charge of that building.
It's a big deal. I mean, if anyone ever gets a chance, if there's ever a public tour that's offered, or you get to go to a boat launch, take it. To be inside that building and just look, it's 750 feet long. And there's going to be 3 of the largest submarines we've ever built as a country that are going to be lined up side by side. There's a dry dock that's coming off to the end. So these boats are going to get rolled out on tracks onto the dry dock, the floating dry dock. And because it's not deep enough right in front of the building, you're going to enjoy seeing this. It's going to float out into the center of the river where it's deep. The thing will sink. The boat will float, and that will rise and come back over, and they'll reattach it to the front. The one thing I will say that's different about Groton is we had this boom before. The submarine boom of the 70s and 80s where there were tens of thousands of guys going into lunch and out to lunch, and we remember those days. They're still fresh in my memory. But the reality is we didn't tailor to that. We just kind of let everything else be supported by EB. And now they have an economic development team. They have a town council that are all trying to, ride the coattails of the wave and make sure other parts of the town are getting built up in the same way. There's apartment buildings that are going up in Groton, just like in New London. I mean, now, everyone's looking.
Is Groton booming like New London seems to be?
I think we are. I think it's more industrial. You don't see it the change that's happened in London is very physical. You can see on the streets. You can see the apartment building where Huey's was. It's enormous. So and we can all picture what that's going to look like with another 400 residents living downtown. In Groton, it's a little bit different because we're more spread out. But a lot of it's the industrial base that's getting built up that you don't see. People forget, and Pfizer is absent from a lot of people's minds. But Pfizer still has 5,000 employees that are in Groton, and we're on there regularly too. And they're always renovating. So you don't see the new physical structure going, but there's a lot of economic activity happening. I do want to say one thing about Quentin, because you brought him up early.
Please.
And that was, I'm glad you did. For folks that don't understand, I think when you watch the news and you look on camera, you see a rep, you go, oh, those guys, they're just up there. They don't care. They do. You hear all the stories about politicians. I can assure you, when you meet a guy like this, you say, oh, these are real people going up there trying to do real things for their community. Because this guy, he was a Middletown guy. Like you're a New London guy, and now I'm a Groton, New London guy. He is the guy that lived and breathed his community. And there's no greater loss and it's sad because a lot of people that reached out to me are from Middletown area saying, I don't think you understand how big of a loss this is. He was a pillar, and he's going to be sadly missed. Definitely in Hartford, but it's one of those guys that had that smile. You could be in a bad mood and you walk in, you can't. When someone's like this, you can't stay in a bad mood, and that's who he was.
What a shame.
It really is, and it was another wrong way driving incident. No one wants to comment on it at all now because no one really knows how it happened or why, but we do know there was a car going the wrong way, and that's something we're going to have to solve because it's happening far too often.
Joe, I got to ask you this. Now, you served in Hartford, and I don't mean, did you want to say anything else?
No, you go.
I'm teed off, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm teed off a lot of stuff. I'm really teed off at Eversource.
Oh.
Now, did you know when you were serving as a state rep how bad Eversource was and is? And did you know what they're getting away with and what the state is allowing them to get away with and what the state legislature has allowed to happen to this? I don't know how to describe it. My blood boils when I think of Eversource. And second question on that, do you know, because many people say they don't know, I can't believe it, do you know that Eversource charges commercial customers more for their electricity and gas than residential customers, and seems very odd to me? That was done under the auspices of the state legislation.
Yeah, and energy is so, again, what they do to me is at a basic human level, there's a lot of problems with it. They'll do, at the end, Pura gets to look at their books and open their books. I wanted
to ask you about Pura too. Please tell us about Pura, because I think they're full of shit.
They're the regulatory committee that oversees them. And technically, they do it to Millstone, they do it to all these generators and the people that provide it.
They're supposed to be looking out for our best interests?
They are.
Well, they're not.
Yeah, they're supposed to be. That was what they were set up to do. So I will say this: my daughter lives in Ledger. I've had Groton Utilities, and we don't. It's hard because we don't see that bill that you guys are seeing, and the new thing that they did with the 50% higher. That's going to crush a lot of people, and it's going to crush. And I don't know.
Did you know that was coming?
I was on the energy committee. No, because every year is different. They go by. They basically, because they have a monopoly and Pure is set up, they make their electricity, and then they can make X amount of profit on top of that. So if you even look and see what's happened to the country in the past year, playing devil's advocate, I'm not an Eversource person, but they're just taking their costs, which it was higher generation costs. The gas is a little bit more. Millstone, we did that deal with where they can sell energy at a higher rate to compete with it. All these little things pile up. And it is other legislations and bills that got passed at Eversource. They take on these costs, and they get to make a percentage of a profit. So at the end, they say, well, this is how much it costs.
Well, that was granted by somebody.
It is. But so I think what you were seeing now are all the costs that we're seeing with goods and services and labor, and it's all trickling down to even the electric bill. Right, to me, I think they should be able to take those profits and pay back, because at the end of the year, if the profit goes outside that, they take it and they put it back in transmission repairs.
Well, the former CEO collected $20 million when he retired.
Wrong.
It's all wrong.
It's wrong.
And why didn't you guys do something about it?
It's a structure that's complicated.
It's too complicated. Did you know that the commercial person is paying more for his electricity?
Yeah, I think I did know that.
And how can you justify it?
So when Eversource or when an electric company comes to your home, they have these free programs where they'll come in and they'll caulk your windows.
It's nothing free. We're paying for it.
You're paying for it, but it goes into the ratepayers. And believe it or not, they want the people that are using the high electric commercial or whoever who's ever using the most, they're almost penalizing them in a way. That's why they're trying to make houses. They're making businesses. It's an incentive for them to say, okay, I'm a business and I have all these incandescent light bulbs, and these guys are putting this extra charge on me. It's an incentive program for you to be more energy efficient. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I said, if I'm selling electricity, what do I care if you're buying 1 million kilowatts, right? I'm making money on them. But the problem is the heavier usage, the more the transmission lines get worn.
Well, on average, that's fine if you're a paper mill or you're
Yeah.
a machine shop, or you're using a lot of electricity. For a small mom and pop business, and there's a lot more of those
No, I
than there
know.
are. And
Yeah.
why isn't there an outrage? I mean, I've talked to people in high positions, and they say they don't know.
They know.
I just can't believe it.
They may not know I know the intricacies because I did 2 years on the energy committee, and that was something that learning all these things, because to try to wrap your head around the energy market, it was the hardest committee I was ever on.
That's because they made it so complicated.
But energy's complicated. It's unbelievable. Like
how can we be in the state of Connecticut the fourth highest ratepayer in the United States of America? Tell me how we can justify that. We had 3 nuclear powerhouses. 2 of them are now running.
Yeah.
When they passed the deregulation bill, California was going broke, and we copied what California did now. Our toasters were supposed to be popping out $5 bills. Electricity was going to go broke. It's a serious problem, Joe.
It is.
And it doesn't seem like anybody's championing the cause.
They are, and I think because of they are a monopoly, and you're trying to. There's only so much you can do under the law. They still are. They're still a private business, and at the end of the day, if we legislate that they can do a 10% profit, whatever it is.
Do you know?
It's. I know it's insane because electricity is water. It is like people don't live without electricity.
You know, a thing that slays me when they do these advertisements, and at the end, the statement comes on paid for by the ratepayers.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's all every. But
How do I get on this pure?
I don't know if they're going to let you on. No, it actually is. It's people that are either economists or they're professionals in energy. They're appointed, like Pure is an appointed board, so that's governor's appointments.
Governor's appointments?
Yeah, I think not every seat, but certainly the person that's running it, and they can be changed. So
it's almost comical. It's not going to be comical next week when we start getting our bills.
No.
Listen, we only got 10 minutes left. We're only going a half hour because we're going to put Joe's show and our show together.
That sounds good.
I don't mean to be rude, Joe.
No,
I'd love to
no.
go a while, but if you don't mind.
No, I'm good.
But because I got some other questions.
Let's go.
I got to ask you. Biggest problems facing the state of Connecticut on your departure?
They'll remain the same until we finally get a hand on our debt, and we
Governor says we're in good shape.
We're in good shape this year. I mean, the overall, like, there was a huge call for everyone to take the extra money that we got, the rainy day fund, not to put it in the net or not to pay off the pension liabilities. And that was the big push. A lot of people were saying that, to give everybody their $100 check. In reality, we invested $3 billion, but there's a $69 billion deficit right now. $69 billion.
I don't read that.
No, in post-employment benefits. So we're funded, if you have a pension.
Wait a minute, you just said a $69 billion deficit.
In other post-employment benefits. So
doesn't sound to me like the budget is balanced.
They're talking about yearly. Yearly, it's balanced. So you have your budget, and your budget is payments on your debt. So budget-wise, with how much you owe, so you have a loan basically, right? And then we're paying on that. So I think that's what people think, that there's just this extra $3 billion laying around. The problem is, if you told me, hey Joe, I got $10,000 in my bank, I'm doing really, really good. Life's pretty good. But then you forget to tell me that you have a $100,000 credit card bill, right? And that's really, the state has some credit card bills, and that's just the union, that's the other post-employment benefits. If you account for the highway and the infrastructure, we're another $70 billion. And there's shovel-ready projects that we could be doing right now. The Gold Star Bridge, $500 million. That's one bridge in Connecticut. There's a lot of those things. The mix master in Waterbury needs to be redone. They're saying that's going to be like a $4 billion project. But I do want to say this, infrastructure-wise, if you look at New Haven, when you spend money on infrastructure, if you remember trying to drive to New Haven before they did that new bridge and the new Passover and the under thing, that it doesn't look anything like it did before. You used to go to New Haven, you get stuck at the Salt and Stall Bridge, because I did construction. I was working in New Haven all the time. It's like driving through nothing now. So when you do invest and you do make the fixes, there's good results.
Well, to get to Frank Pep's faster, it's worth everything.
Exactly.
One last question, Joe. We only got 5 minutes.
Yep.
What's your take on revaluation
For homes,
for the state of Connecticut, required every 5 years by state statute?
I think it keeps everyone up to date. I think if you stretch it out over 10 years, you'll probably have a lot of people renovating a house on certain years, like on year one, and trying to go out to.
Are you going through revaluation in Groton now?
No, we did it. I think we did it 2 years.
Does Vision do it? Vision appraisal?
I'm not sure who does our appraisals anymore.
So here's my question, and I'll use New London as an example because it's booming.
Yeah.
We've got all this work going on.
Yeah.
Which should reap a tax benefit.
Yeah.
Should our taxes be stagnant or go down?
That's the theory, right? You get more people paying into the tax.
So we're going to
into
put
the
Mike
base.
Passero. We're going to put Mike Passero on notice tonight. And it's Joe Delacruz who said it, Mike.
Wait a minute. What
Our
are we
taxes
talking about
better
here?
go down.
Well, I think Mike's been a pretty good
do
fiscal
too.
mayor.
Yes, absolutely.
When you look at the work he's done, I mean, he's
No question.
And I got to tell you, they haven't just been blessed with all these people want to build here. It's been a lot of outreach. The building department in London's incredible. You got Felix Reyes and their group, and they're doing a lot of calls and outreach. Like these guys from New York don't know anything about New London.
Yeah,
But they get calls and they get brought to, and people are starting to see the value of New London finally.
I go with you 100% and agree with you, but my theory is, my feeling is based on what's my taxes going to be next year, and I don't want them to go up with what's going on.
Yeah.
Joe, we're almost out of time. Let me ask you one more question, quickly. You told us about what you thought biggest problems in Connecticut are. Are you following the speaker issue in Washington? What are your thoughts on what's going on?
Honestly, I think that the Democrats should go approach a Republican that they think is in the middle somewhere, and say they'll vote for him. We got to get the country moving. I don't think McCarthy has the votes, and I think that they need a speaker, and they could help elect another speaker from the other side. I think it would show some bipartisanship, and I think it would show that they can work together down there, because I just don't know. I don't even see the end to this. I don't know if there's really an end, and I think the tail's wagging the dog. You have 20 members of Congress now who are saying.
But I like what they're saying.
You can like what they're saying, but the work of the people still has to get done. And they're negotiating. And McCarthy has offered them some things that no one thought that he ever would. As sometimes in politics, you have to agree to disagree and move forward. Elect a speaker and get people doing the work.
Every year the Congress meets to make change.
They do.
And what's happened in our lifetime, every year they meet, they kick the can down the road and they don't get what needs to be done. Immigration is a good example.
That is a good example.
They have not dealt with it. They have not solved the problem. The taxes is another thing. Too complicated. They have not dealt with it. It's all because of special interests, and they're not running the country. And we need, on both sides of the aisle, we need change. All right, we're out of time, Joe.
It was
I want to
great.
thank you for coming on.
Thanks
and
for
we'll do
having
this more often.
We will.
And next week, we're going to show Joe's show, because he's got a big show over in Groton.
Yeah.
And tell us the name of it, Joe.
It's called Born Political, and Murray was on it earlier today, and we're going to put them together.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Drew. Murray signing off from the city. Too tough to die. New London.